Russia is seizing on this controversy in Canada's parliament, saying it's outrageous. A Ukrainian veteran who fought for a Nazi unit was presented as a hero in the House of Commons. Here's a Kremlin spokesperson speaking earlier.
Подобное неряшливое отношение к памяти, а память должна храниться в отношении нацистов, сколько бы лет им не было. Здесь нет срока годности, срока давности у этих преступлений.
House Speaker Anthony Rota says he alone is to blame for Yaroslav Hunka's invitation to Parliament and that neither the government nor the Ukrainian delegation were made aware of Hunka's presence in the gallery beforehand. Larissa Galadza served as Canada's ambassador to Ukraine from 2019 until 2023. She's in Victoria, British Columbia. Ms. Galadza, it's good to have you back on the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
I need to start with what happened here in Ottawa on Friday. President Zelensky's visit really being overshadowed by the invitation of this guest who fought on the German side in the Second World War. I wonder, given your time as the country's ambassador to Ukraine, how do you think this moment is going to go over with Ukrainians and with their government?
I hate that it happened. I'm deeply embarrassed that it happened. But the Speaker has spoken, the Prime Minister has spoken, and I think we will need to move on from this each in our own way. For Ukrainians, they're used to challenges, they're used to new hurdles. But they're fighting a major war, and they will be focused on that. For Canadians, we need to learn, and everyone needs to do the right thing.
Russia is seizing on this, right? This has handed them a ready-made piece of propaganda. How effective do you think this can be in terms of helping Vladimir Putin in his messaging war?
I don't think it'll be effective at all. I think that the world is increasingly understanding that Vladimir Putin is not a credible messenger, and I don't think that this will help convince anyone that he is on the right side of history.
What kind of diplomatic conversations do you think are happening right now in Kyiv, though, between the Canadian mission there and the Ukrainian government to try to sort of smooth a lot of this over? It feels like if you were still in your old job, you would have had a very difficult weekend.
I think the conversations that are happening there are how to leverage the visit that happened and the discussions that took place with the Prime Minister, with the members of the Ukrainian-Canadian community, with members of the business community, and take that energy that was there in all of the rest of the events and channel them into the future and understand how that significant package of assistance that was provided, that was announced, is going to be flowing.
Does this embarrassment, as you called it, I mean, does this in any way make that harder? You know, this seemed like such a triumphant moment on Friday, and then clearly, obviously, was tarnished by the revelations over the weekend. So does it make it that much harder to leverage that, or do you think people can move past it?
I think that it was an excellent visit. President Zelensky had been waiting a very long time to come to Canada, and you see the warmth between Prime Minister Trudeau and President Zelensky. I know that he took energy away from that, and that is a huge gift to a president that is every day giving every ounce of his energy, everything that he has to fighting this war, to buoying his own population, to rallying the world for the cause of Ukraine. And I think that he came away with a lot of that.
I wonder if we could just dig into what appears to be a regional challenge with Poland being upset with Ukraine and bilateral Ukrainian-Polish relations being strained. There's an issue or a dispute over grain, and now Poland talking about not sending new weapons to Ukraine. I mean, what's your sense of that flashpoint, that tension between those two countries and how significant that could be?
My sense is that there is nothing easy or facile or simplistic in international relations. Ukrainians and Poles have a deep relationship, and I know from having been on the inside, having been in Ukraine, when these flashpoints flare up with Poland or anyone else, that it's never as it appears in the news. There's always something more sophisticated, more intricate, more elaborate, more nuanced, let's say, and it's not as simplistic as the headlines might make it look.
But I wonder.
That's the interesting part of diplomacy.
Well, yes. Well, and you would know that well, I mean, from your 4 years there. But I just wonder on that. I mean, Warsaw was resolute in its support of Ukraine, really becoming a leading NATO member in terms of military aid. Are you worried that's in jeopardy with this conflict? And we've seen the Polish ambassador this weekend saying Ottawa needs to apologize for what happened in Parliament on Friday. How do you think all of this plays in to the relationships in that region?
I think Poland is very concerned about the war that Russia is waging in Ukraine, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia is Poland's neighbor as well. And so I think that Poland is going to remain resolute in its support for Ukraine and a strong NATO ally. And I think that will be strong moving forward.
So you were assigned as ambassador to Ukraine for 4 years. We're 19 months into the war now. Where do you think the country is in terms of its conflict when you left from when to come back to Canada from when this conflict started 19 months ago?
It's a war. It was Russia's illegal and unjustifiable invasion. And it was met with incredible strength, incredible creativity on the part of Ukrainians, and incredible unity on the part of Ukraine's partners. Where we are today is, as you say, 19 months on. I think it's nearly 600 days. Ukrainians are proving themselves. They continue to be creative. They continue to be resolute. They continue to be absolutely determined to win because they have no option. But they're also tired. 19 months of war. Everyone knows someone who has died. The funerals are constant. The cemeteries are overflowing. Young, intelligent, bright. The future of the country is being sent to the front lines, and so many of them are dying. Ukrainians are very aware of the long-term impact of this war, not just the economic part or the physical part, but of the mental part as well. And they are expressing to me, my friends, my former colleagues, that they're tired, but they have no choice. They have to keep going. And this is why a visit like President Zelensky's to Canada, with all that strong support and that love and that bond that we have, is so important to Ukrainians, because I know from having been there that they feel that support from far away, and that's why I think it's so important when Prime Minister Trudeau says we're standing with Ukraine for as long as it takes. They need that now more than ever.
You touched on something there that I was wondering about out loud on Friday when President Zelensky was speaking about children being taken by Russia, for example, and the 175,000 Ukrainians who are here in Canada and countless others in other parts of the world, and young men predominantly being sent to the front lines. The capacity of Ukraine to rebuild once there's a peace, if they get a victory, with the loss of many young people, either they've had to flee, they've had to fight, they've died, or they've been taken. What does that look like, for Ukraine in the future that has to put the pieces back together once the fighting is done?
Ukraine, I don't think they're going to wait. Ukrainians aren't waiting until the fighting is done to try to put the pieces back together. And so they're living, they're building. Even the political and institutional and legal reforms that were underway before the invasion, those continue. The economic development, entrepreneurs continue to open businesses. You saw President Zelensky talking to Canadian business. They continue to look for investment in the country. So I think Ukrainians are settling into the idea that they need to do both at the same time, and as it's possible to do. The war is present in different ways in different parts of the country. It is present all over the country, and no part of the country is out of the reach of Russian missiles. But they are doing both. They are living and they're fighting for their lives at the same time.
Larissa,
and they're going to do it with creativity, with that determination.
Right. Larissa Galadza, former Canadian ambassador to Ukraine, thanks so much for your time today.